That said, the most common urban raptor we're seeing today are Cooper's hawks. So if you've got big Rhode Island Reds, that's kind of an overmatch for a Cooper's hawk. However, if you have a smaller variety, or I wouldn't be surprised at them being interested, but maybe really what they're interested in is songbirds. If you have chickens, you're probably feeding them. You're bringing in smaller birds as well. So earlier, when you guys weren't here, these birds brought in a sharp-shinned hawk that was up in this tree for about 20 minutes while we were conducting this. We saw a Cooper's hawk soaring about 400 yards over that way. We saw a red-tailed hawk cruising out over that way. All of these could potentially be in your backyard, but the most likely culprit, Cooper's hawks are the most abundant. So when I hear about on the backyard fences, when people pull out their cell phones to show me, it's almost always the Cooper's hawk.
Okay.
But red-tails are here, red-shoulders are here, Cooper's hawks are here, sharp-shins are here at the moment. These are much smaller hawks. So we have a plethora of variety.
Yeah, because they don't look quite that fancy. So yeah.
No, we have peregrines here as well. So last week I was on Euclid. I have a vet that has an office off of Euclid, and I heard peregrine falcon flying right over Euclid. A female peregrine falcon, irritated about something. Somebody maybe a hawk stole her whatever she had caught. She was pissed off, and she was cacking. I fly my falcons on a golf course in Brea. It's not unusual for me to see peregrine falcons come in when my falcons are flying. So in these cities, we see peregrine falcons as well. They're not as abundant. You won't see them as often, but don't discount the fact that you won't see a peregrine here. It does happen.
Are they the ones that fly really high?
Some days. So do the red tails. So the red tails are soaring hawks, and it's not unusual on good lift conditions for the red tails to go very, very high as well. We've seen Cooper's hawk behave this way during the nesting cycle. This is a way for them pair bonding and delineating territories. Often you'll see the male and female together as they catch these thermal columns going up and up and up, and they'll go very high as well. So we moved into the world of the hawk. So this is the rabbit catcher in chief. When I go hunting with my falcons, and I'm a lifelong practicing falconer, I hunt with birds of prey. My falcons are bird hunters. My hawk, conversely, rabbit hunter. So cottontail, like this one she caught, I don't know when, I pulled this out of the freezer last night, but jackrabbits too. So this hawk has a much longer tail than the falcon that we saw a moment ago. Now all hawks are not built to the same specification. These hawks have a kind of a particularly long tail. The tail is the rudder. This is instrumental in maneuverability and braking. And in fact, my Harris's hawk has better acceleration than my falcons for a short sprint. Once my falcons really get into a rhythm and develop momentum, they'll leave the hawk in the dust. But in the meantime, A to B, these birds are quicker. These hawks can hunt in a canopy, they can hunt under a canopy, they can hunt in and around cover. This is mammal hunting as opposed to bird hunting. Bird hunting with falcons, open air typical. Mammal hunting in and around cover, so agility is kind of a factor that they enjoy. Jackrabbits run at about 45 miles per hour, relatively fast. She'll smoke them, she outflies them. Then it's a matter of maneuverability. They will try to outdodge her. Sometimes that works. Rarely does she come home without putting a jackrabbit in the bag. She's really good at what it is she does. Harris hawks are phenomenal hunting birds. These are completely unique hawks. There are none others like these on the planet. These are pack hunters. So most birds of prey will hunt solitary. Some will hunt in pairs, in tandem. Mated pairs will go out together. Golden eagles are notorious. Peregrine falcons will hunt as pairs. These guys go out in family clans. It's like a pack of wolves, a pride of lions, or a pod of orca, whatever. This is unheard of. This is not done. These being exceptional to the rule. So as it turns out, we falconers, we really like these kinds of hawks because they have this cooperative kind of, they're innately willing to be a cooperative hunting animal. So that really translates very well in a falconry context. Falconry is an ancient art that goes back thousands of years. We are not sure of its origin. This predates written language, so the details get lost in time. But certainly by 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, people in places like Syria, the poor Syrians, they were some of the original falconers. We've seen pottery shards from Syrian cultures dating about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. There are those who believe Chinese were hunting with falcons 12,000 years ago. We may never know the exact details. But the important thing to understand is that the Near East, the Far East, the Middle East, thousands of years of hunting with birds of prey as subsistence. Just like we were using clubs and spears and snares and rocks and eventually bows and arrows and then ultimately firearms, we were using hawks and falcons and eagles to put animal protein on our tables. Here in North America, not so much. We have no indication of falconry here until Europeans arrived. They brought it on boats. If you've ever seen Native Americans dancing and maybe heard their bells, it's not unusual to incorporate bells into their dance. This is traced back to falconry. We brought bells with us on boats, falcon bells. The natives loved them, so they became part of our wampum. They were a good trade item. So they were incorporated into the dances of the Native Americans. But these hawks today are global. This is a New World bird. They weren't exposed to Old World falconry back in the day, thousands of years ago. But because they're so well suited to this lifestyle, because they're such a great hunting bird, and they breed very well in a captive setting too, they're global. They're being flown in lots of different places. I use this bird with my work. She's not fast and agile enough to fly seagulls out of the sky. My objective there is to not kill thousands of gulls. My objective is to kind of occupy an airspace, maybe run a gull off a building or off a table sort of a thing, keep them on edge, unnerved, uncomfortable enough to not hang out is kind of what we're doing. In my world, when she and I hunt, it's really all about the mammals, rabbits and hare. But in the wild, these birds will also catch things like reptiles and birds. That's part of their menu too. But certainly mammals are going to be the predominant part of their menu.
Do they ever go after like a small dog or cat?
Yeah, that's a potential hazard. So my biggest problem,
And how big?
like with our phones, remember the whole thing was how small can we make them? We've kind of been doing that with dogs. So I have people that will show up with dogs the size of a guinea pig. So I have to be really careful the way that I fly this particular bird in a public setting, because dogs are a potential risk. Absolutely. Yeah, no getting around
How
it.
big are you?
So I would say anything under the size of a Jack Russell would frighten me. Anything over that size, we're probably okay. And like I said, we're experimenting with dogs. It seems like to see how small we can make them, and these are tempting targets for lots of predators. We can never blame the predator. You know, if an animal that we have as a pet or a domesticated animal for human consumption, what have you, the onus is upon us to keep the predators away, to prevent our animals from being in a vulnerable situation. And if we expose our animals to a predator and the predator kills our pet, that's on us. That is not a bad act by a predator. That's simply predators doing what predators do.
He's getting all the fur and everything.
Hi, yeah, so this is an unlucky rabbit foot, and I think
Oh!
you're carnivores. So yeah. So remember, you probably had animal protein within the last 24 hours would be my guess. If there are vegans amongst us, kudos to you, I guess. But if you're most Americans are consumers of animal protein, fish, beef, pork, poultry. The difference being, in this case, this bird caught its own meal. So this was a non-caged animal that's being consumed, and it's being consumed uncooked, fur on. So there goes the foot. Down the hatch.
Can you put the bone back
See, that
in?
went out the other end, right?
So the femur, the femur went in the bag.
It's okay.
Femur's in the bag. The foot down the hatch. So here's the interesting thing about what we've just witnessed. These carnivorous birds not only consume flesh, but they consume indigestible items like beaks, teeth, toenails, fur, and feathers. All come back up orally in a pellet form. We call it a casting. That bone and the foot will be dissolved. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to see a fur ball come out of this hawk. It's going to be about yay big. It's going to be the fur and the toenails, and the bone will be gone. The bone will get dissolved, provide calcium, and if there's any marrow inside of those bones, that's going to provide nutrition for this hawk as well. So these hawks used to be in California. When we dammed the Colorado River, we extirpated them because the sycamore trees that provided the nesting colony, their platform, those trees were gone. So Arizona, Texas, New Mexico all have Harris's hawks. There's a few in Louisiana and as far south as Peru. So if there are no hawk questions, I'm going to put her down and we'll switch gears.
Is there a special name for that hawk again?
Harris's hawk. So Audubon, that famous ornithologist, he had the opportunity to name this variety, and this is a craw in my stomach. These are such a unique bird. Their name is not a reflection of anything about the biology of these birds. The name comes from one of the benefactors of Audubon. His name was Dr. Harris. He was funding some of the expeditions. So if you look in your guidebook, you'll find not only a Harris's hawk, but there's a Harris's sparrow, which is pretty decadent. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know, let's. But anyway, such it is. So it is. Let me put this bird down, and we'll take a look at stealth predation.